Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Shalom Bagaretz. I am a major in the IDF Reserves. I have degrees in sociology, international relations, political science, and I created this channel in order to explain some different topics and to explore with you some ideas around both Israel and the wider world. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the civilian casualties in Gaza. Why civilian casualties occur in Gaza, how it is inevitable, and the length that Israel goes to minimize them. First of all, I think we need to contextualize the war in Gaza and the amount of civilians that have died. If we look, even in terms of wars in the last 25 years, right, since 2000, the amount of civilian casualties in Gaza doesn't even enter the top 5. In modern warfare, civilians dying is also a given, however bad that sounds. Even just looking at from 2000, in Iraq and Afghanistan, hundreds of thousands. In Sudan, also. In Yemen, more than 100,000 civilians died, partly at the hands of the Houthis. This is not some sort of special case that every other country is able to fight a war in a sterile manner, and for some reason Israel is killing civilians. Because so often the discourse is how unprecedented this war is, where in reality it isn't. These civilian casualties happen in all wars. How could they be much higher? Well, they could be much higher if Israel did not go to such lengths in order to minimize civilian casualties. Moving populations from one area to the next is a key part of Israel being able to minimize civilian casualties, because if the civilians were to just stay in that area and the tanks would just roll in while the civilians were there, then obviously civilian casualties would shoot through the roof. But Israel has made the vast effort, not only in time, not only in money, but also in opportunity cost, meaning that the giving civilians time to leave also gives the enemy time to leave or to redeploy, which is detrimental to the war effort. But even that being so, Israel has time and again made this choice in order to minimize civilian casualties. Israel is not doing carpet bombing, but rather strategic and tactical bombing on designated targets where civilian casualties are meant to be minimized. Well then, if Israel has trying to minimize civilian casualties, why are civilian casualties so high? So much has been made about how Hamas hides behind civilians, but that really is an understatement. Hamas has embedded itself within civilian infrastructure on purpose in order to maximize civilian casualties from the start. Most of the civilian infrastructure in Gaza has also been used in service for Hamas. Hamas is using hospitals and schools as bases. As they were being built, were built with it being a base in mind, right? So these are from the get-go dual-use infrastructure. And international law subscribes that if you use a building, a piece of infrastructure for military use, then it is not protected under the Geneva Conventions. The reason being is that it would be a very simple act to do what Hamas has tried to do, where you simply label a base hospital and then you cry out, nah, 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 you can't get me. And that's really the game that Hamas is playing, where it can do whatever it wants, but then it will run back into civilian populations and cry out, "Ali, Ali, oxen free." As Hamas has put its entire strategy of maximizing civilian casualties have occurred. And I agree that shooting at a hospital or blowing up a hospital is bad. But Hamas knows this. And so it is in their strategy to use hospitals as bases in order for us to destroy it, and then to cry out that there is a humanitarian catastrophe going on in Gaza. And they also keep civilians in those zones in order to up the death count. You might say, well, why would they do this? Because really, the battle that Hamas is fighting is less about tanks on the ground, is less about what they control in Gaza, and is actually far more about what happens in the discussions in the international realms. Because their goal is to force upon Israel first a Palestinian state and then its total destruction. They say it outright. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is their stated goals. And we have learned to believe their stated goals. If you are an honest person who has been wrapped up into some of these discourses, and you see numbers on a screen and that shocks you, the question that needs to be kept in mind is, what would you have us do? And so if you have a group who owns territory, is a state in all but name, whose stated goal is your destruction, who is willing to pursue that goal time and time again, as they have stated, and who have succeeded in committing atrocities, then what would you have us do? When that group hides behind civilians and tries to put forth that you can't touch me because if you do, then civilians will die, they have spent so much time and money ensuring that the only way to get rid of them is to increase the deaths upon Palestinian civilians, that when we have been left with no choice but to get rid of them, that is the logical conclusion. It's grim and it's unwanted, but that is the conclusion. And really, Israel had tried to avoid this conclusion for so long. After the disengagement, put up an iron dome, put up a wall, said, sure, we can allow you to shoot rockets into Israel and we'll shoot back a little bit, but not enough that would really jeopardize a lot of Gazans. We won't go all the way to get rid of you because we know the price that you have put on your own head, and it's a steep price. But what do you do when your enemy has weaponized morality against you, has weaponized your own morality against you in a way that is only possible with them being the most amoral group imaginable? Who would do this to their own people? You cannot let a monster fester right across the border. You need to go and do the hard choice of going in. But what Hamas's biggest mistake was October 7th, because their weaponization of our morality against ourselves works. And it will continue to work so long as we exist, because we will remain moral. We will keep our morality. What October 7th has shown was, first of all, in black and white, that there is no second option, and also that the morality of the West has become morally bankrupt in a lot of ways. Not everyone, obviously, but when you have large groups of people criticizing Israel on October 8th, before anything even happened in Gaza, when we were still dealing with mass terrorist attacks against our citizens, you can't expect us to listen to your morality, your fake morality, which would basically, the logical outcome is to sit and die. Because, again, what would you have us do after such an attack? And so, as we do need to go in, We have gone above and beyond what is required under international law in order to limit civilian casualties because we are beholden to our own morality. And we have time and again allowed aid into Gaza, even knowing that it would get to Hamas, and actively support our vicious opponents. Even that being the case, we let aid into Gaza. And so, yes, civilians have died, but it is after the concerted effort of Hamas for them to die, and the concerted effort of Israel to minimize the amount of death. That's my video, and I hope you can learn something from it. Again, my name is Shalom. I do web lectures. I also do political consulting, and I'm available through the information in the description. Share this video with someone who you think needs to hear it. And until next time.